Somewhere in the world right now, someone is getting down on one knee. They have a ring. They have rehearsed what they are going to say probably 50 times. They have picked the location carefully. Maybe a rooftop, maybe a restaurant where they had their first date. Maybe somewhere that means something to both of them. And the person being proposed to is going to cry or laugh or cover their mouth or all three at once. And the whole thing is wrapped in ritual, in specific expected behaviors, in a script that both people somehow already know, even if nobody ever taught it to them directly. Now go back, not 100 years, not 1,000 years. Go back 100,000 years. There is no ring. There is no knee. There is no rehearsed speech. There is no restaurant. There are two people standing somewhere on the African savannah, and one of them wants the other one to stay permanently, to choose them above everyone else in the group and commit to that choice. And the question is, how did they say it? How did the first human being in history communicate something as complex and vulnerable as "I want you, specifically you, to be my person" before the words existed to say it? That is what we are finding out today. And the answer is stranger, more beautiful, and more recognizable than you are probably expecting. Let us start with the most important thing to understand about ancient human pair bonding, because it completely changes what a prehistoric proposal actually meant. In modern life, a proposal is a symbolic gesture that precedes a legal and social contract called marriage. The proposal itself has no immediate practical consequence. It is a declaration of intention. But in the world ancient humans lived in, the decision to pair with someone was not symbolic. It was one of the most consequential survival decisions a person could make. Your long-term partner was the person who would hunt alongside you or gather alongside you, who would defend you in conflicts, who would share food with you during shortages, who would help raise children who had an extremely high chance of dying without significant investment from two adults, who would be your primary alliance in a group where alliances determine survival. Choosing a partner was not a romantic luxury. It was a strategic decision with life or death implications. And whatever the ancient version of a proposal looked like, it was not a casual gesture. It was one of the most loaded communications a human could attempt. Now here is the challenge. For most of human evolutionary history, for the vast majority of the 2 million years that our ancestors have been walking upright on this planet, there was no language sophisticated enough to say what a proposal requires you to say. No words for forever. No words for commitment. No words for "I choose you above everyone else." Language in its modern form, with abstract concepts and complex grammar and the ability to describe states and intentions and futures, is relatively recent. The specific cognitive capacity for that kind of language appears to have developed somewhere in the last 100,000 years, possibly the last 50,000. Before that, communication was real, emotional, and social, but it was not verbal in the way we understand verbal. So how do you propose without words? The answer starts with gifts, and not the kind of gift. Giving that is transactional, where you give something because you expect something in return. The kind that researchers call costly signaling, where you give something that is genuinely difficult to obtain, that has real value, that costs you something significant, precisely to prove through the act of giving it that you are willing to pay that cost for this specific person. The earliest evidence of what anthropologists interpret as courtship gift-giving predates modern language by an enormous margin. Shells found at ancient sites, pierced and shaped in ways that served no practical function, carried across distances that required significant effort to travel, are among the oldest artifacts we have that appear to be associated with pair bonding behavior. These were not food. They were not tools. They were objects of perceived beauty that someone went out of their way to find and bring back for someone else. 100,000 years before anyone invented the engagement ring, someone picked up a shell from a beach miles away and carried it home because they wanted to give it to a specific person and have that person understand what the giving meant. But the gift alone was not the proposal. The gift was the opening move, the signal that said, "I am thinking about you specifically." What followed was a sustained pattern of behavior that communicated what words could, not the ancient human equivalent of putting in the work. Researchers who study pair bonding in traditional societies that still practice forms of courtship closer to what prehistoric humans likely practiced have documented a remarkably consistent pattern across cultures that have had almost no contact with each other. The male, in the vast majority of documented cases, demonstrates. He performs. He shows. He hunts, more visibly than usual, and makes sure the results of that hunting are seen by the right person. He takes risks that are slightly beyond what practical necessity requires and survives them. He participates in group activities where skill is on display and performs at the top of his capability. He shows up consistently in places where the person he has chosen will see him showing up. This is not coincidence across cultures. It is the behavioral signature of a species that evolved to communicate romantic intention through demonstrated competence, because demonstrated competence in a world without social safety nets was the most honest possible answer to the question every potential partner was subconsciously asking: can you actually provide? Can you actually protect? Are you actually worth the bet? The female in these ancient courtship patterns was not passive. She was evaluating, and the evaluation was sophisticated in ways that went far beyond simple physical assessment. Researchers studying mate selection in traditional societies have consistently found that human females, uniquely among primates, weight non-physical indicators of male quality very heavily in mate selection. Things like social status within the group, kindness toward children and toward lower status group members, ability to resolve conflicts calmly, evidence of sustained reliability. Over time, not impressive behavior in a single moment, but consistent behavior across many moments across many months. A male who was spectacular once was interesting. A male who showed up and performed and was kind and reliable across an entire season was worth committing to. The ancient female was not looking for a single grand gesture. She was looking for a pattern. And the ancient male who understood this, whether consciously or through pure instinct, did not propose with one dramatic moment. He proposed with everything that came before the moment, and the moment was just when it became officially acknowledged. That acknowledgement, the moment where intention became mutual, happened through a different channel than words. It happened through what researchers call behavioral synchrony, the mirroring of another person's movements, sitting in the same position, moving in the same rhythm, the small, mostly unconscious physical alignments that happen between people who are deeply comfortable with each other and strongly drawn to each other. Studies of modern couples watching video of themselves on early dates can identify with remarkable accuracy which couples are still together years later, not from what the couples say to each other, but from how their bodies move in relation to each other. The couples who stay together show significantly higher rates of spontaneous movement synchrony. Their bodies answer each other. This is ancient. Behavioral synchrony as a bonding mechanism long predates language. When two ancient humans reached the point where their bodies were naturally, automatically moving in alignment with each other, when one turned and the other turned with them without thinking, when they sat together in silence, and the silence felt like enough, something had been communicated without a single word being necessary. That was the ancient proposal, not a question, an arrival. Two bodies that had decided, below the level of conscious language, that they had found the right orbit. There was also touch, and in a species that had not yet developed words for vulnerability or desire. Deliberate touch was one of the most loaded communications available. Grooming behavior, the careful, attentive touching of another person's hair or skin, carries enormous social weight in all primate species, and in humans specifically, it retains that weight in ways that are immediate and physiological. Deliberate touch releases oxytocin in both the toucher and the person being touched. It reduces cortisol levels. It activates the same neural reward circuits that respond to food and warmth. When an ancient human reached out and touched another person deliberately, not in a practical context, but in a moment of stillness, it was not a small thing. It was a declaration made with the body in the only language the body has ever spoken, fluently. I want to be near you. I am choosing proximity. I am making myself vulnerable to you. In a way, I am not making myself vulnerable to anyone else. And then there was what might be the oldest proposal, behavior we can identify with any confidence in the archaeological record, feeding, the deliberate sharing of food, specifically the offering of food, to a particular individual in a way that goes beyond normal group sharing patterns, appears across virtually every documented traditional culture as a courtship behavior. In cultures across 6 continents, with no historical contact with each other, some form of food offering to a desired partner is a recognized part of courtship ritual. Among our closest primate relatives, male chimpanzees offer food to females. They are courting. The behavior is so consistent and so ancient that evolutionary biologists believe it predates the human-chimpanzee split. The first proposal in human history may not have been a ring or a speech or a dramatic gesture on a cliff edge. It may have been someone who hunted all day and then, when the food was divided, brought the best piece to one specific person and sat down next to them while they ate it. And that person understood exactly what was being said, because some things do not require words. They never have. They are older than words, and they still work exactly the same way they worked 100,000 years ago, whether anyone consciously knows it or not. Here is what makes all of this worth thinking about. The modern proposal, with its ring and its knee, and its rehearsed words and its carefully chosen location, is a formalization of something that your body already knows how to do instinctively every time you go out of your way to bring someone something you thought they would like. Every time. You show up consistently when you did not have to. Every time you choose the seat next to a specific person in a room full of options. Every time you reach out and touch someone in a moment that is not practical, just present. You are running the same ancient program that ran in the first humans, whoever decided to choose each other. The words are new. The ring is new. The ritual is new. The intention underneath all of it is as old as the species. And it has always been communicated at its deepest level, not in what you say, but in what you keep doing day after day without being asked. That is the oldest proposal there is, and it is still the one that actually means something. There is one more dimension to ancient human courtship that modern proposals have almost entirely lost, and it is the one that once you see it, you cannot unsee it in every relationship around you. In ancient human groups, the proposal was never really just between 2 people. It was between 2 people and the entire group they lived in, because in a world where survival depended on group cooperation, a pair bond that the group did not support was a pair bond with a serious structural weakness. The approval of the community, the endorsement of elders, the acceptance of the pairing by the people whose cooperation both partners depended on every day was not a formality, it was a practical survival factor. A pair that the group rejected was a pair without the support network that made raising children survivable. This is why in virtually every traditional human culture, documented by anthropologists from the most remote and isolated to the most historically complex, the formation of a pair bond has some form of public acknowledgement, some ritual that involves the wider community witnessing and endorsing the pairing, the wedding, in all its extraordinary variety of forms, across human cultures is not a modern invention. It is the formalization of something ancient, the group witnessing 2 people choose each other and choosing collectively to support that choice. So the next time you watch 2 people get engaged, or attend a wedding or see a proposal video go viral, because someone climbed a building or stopped a train, or filled a room with flowers, understand that you are watching something that has no beginning you can point to. It started before language, before civilization, before any of the specific rituals that surround it now. It started when the first human being brought the best piece of meat back from the hunt and sat down next to the one specific person they wanted to share it with. Everything else is decoration around that original moment, and that moment has never stopped happening.